Alpha Vaelith Orqane rejected me. I was carrying her child beneath a silver dress she had chosen with her own hands. Its tire, Velkharis Pack, stood under moonlit chandeliers, applauding the moment my heart broke. Not because they knew I was pregnant, because they knew she had kissed my stomach 3 nights earlier and whispered that one day our child would inherit a kinder world. They applauded because Vaelith was their alpha, and in Velkharis, when the alpha sacrificed love for power, everyone called it strength. My name was Nysera Veyl. I was 23 years old, Omega by blood, healer by training, invisible by survival, foolish enough to believe that a woman raised by wolves and war could still choose tenderness in public. For 11 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, Vaelith Orqane had been mine in every place except the one that mattered. She was mine in the abandoned moonflower greenhouse, where rain slid down the glass roof, and her black gloves always came off before she touched me. She was mine in the east stairwell, pressed me against the cold stone wall, and kissed me like the pack. The council and the entire Orqane bloodline could burn outside the door. She was mine in her private office before dawn, when she let her head rest in my lap and let me comb my fingers through her silver black hair, while she pretended she was not trembling. She was mine in every hidden corner. But in the grand hall, beneath 700 watching eyes, Vaelith looked at me like I was a rumor she regretted. And then she said, "I have no chosen Omega." The words did not hit me all at once. Pain rarely does. At first, I only heard the silence. The sharp, stunned silence of noble alphas turning their attention toward me. The soft gasp of healer Marith somewhere near the side doors. The tiny clink of a crystal glass in Lady Orintha Scale's hand. The sound of my own pulse, frantic and frightened beneath the thin silver chain Vaelith had placed around my neck 2 months before. Then Vaelith continued, her voice calm, beautiful, and merciless. "There is no bond claim." My fingers tightened around the small evening pouch at my side. Inside it was a folded handkerchief, a vial of nausea tonic, and a pregnancy test wrapped in white paper. Positive. 2 dark lines, 2 impossible lines, 2 lines that had made me sit on the floor of the Lunary Infirmary that morning, with my back against the medicine cabinet and one shaking hand pressed to my stomach. I had imagined telling her after the gala. I had imagined her silver eyes widening. I had imagined her breath catching. I had imagined, stupidly, that Vaelith would fall to her knees, press her face to my belly, whisper my name like the moon had given her something she never dared ask for. Instead, she stood on the raised dais beneath the ancient wolf banners and erased me with 3 sentences. "Any assumption otherwise," Vaelith said, "a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding." That was what she called the nights when she shook apart in my arms. That was what she called the morning. She tied my hair back because my hands were stained with healing herbs. And she said I looked too tired to fight with ribbons. That was what she called the fevered heat, where my wolf recognized her so deeply that even my bones seemed to say yes. That was what she called us. The applause began slowly. Matriarch Silvara clapped first. Then the noblewomen followed. Then the warriors. Then the guests who did not understand the wound they were celebrating. Only that the Alpha had spoken, and power required noise. I stood near the healer's table, in the dress Vaelith chose for me, feeling the room turn brighter and colder at the same time. Pale blue silk clung to my skin. Silver thread glittered along my sleeves. The chain at my throat suddenly felt like a collar. Across the hall, Vaelith did not look away. That was the cruelest part. I might have believed she was ashamed. If she had flinched, I might have believed she was forced. But she held my gaze with the same discipline she used during border trials, council battles, executions of old laws, perfect control, perfect ruin. Lady Orintha Scale stepped closer to her. Orintha was tall, elegant, dressed in red velvet that looked almost black under the blue lanterns. She smiled like a blade, learning it had drawn blood. Council had wanted Vaelith to bind herself to Orintha for months. Not for love. Never love. For territory. For bloodline prestige. For the merging of two ancient alpha houses. Vaelith had laughed about it once in the greenhouse. She thinks I am a throne with a pulse, she had told me. I had asked, and what am I? Vaelith had touched my cheek. The only place I stopped being one. I remembered that as Orintha laid a possessive hand on Vaelith's sleeve. Vaelith did not move away. Something inside me went very still. Not calm, not healed. Still in the way, a lake freezes over a drowning thing. I turned before the room could watch me break. Someone whispered my name. Someone else whispered. Poor Omega. I kept walking. The grand hall doors opened before me, because two attendants stepped aside with terrified faces. I crossed into the corridor without running. That mattered to me for some reason. If Vaelith could reject me without shaking, could leave without collapsing. At least until I reached the first dark window. Then the pain arrived. It hit low in my stomach, deep in my chest, sharp beneath the scent gland at my neck, where Vaelith had never marked me, breathed over me so often that my body still thought she belonged there.
I bent forward.
One hand against the window frame, the other pressed protectively over my belly. Not now, I whispered. I did not know whether I was speaking to my body, my wolf, the tiny life inside me. Maybe all three. My evening pouch slipped from my fingers. The white-wrapped test slid out across the black marble, stared at it. So small, so dangerous. A secret no bigger than my palm, powerful enough to destroy every lie Vaelith had just told. Before I could reach for it, a red velvet sleeve entered my vision. Lady Orintha picked it up. My blood turned cold. What a dramatic little treasure, Orintha murmured. Give it back. My voice sounded strange. Flat, too quiet, too close to becoming a scream. Orintha turned the wrap test between her fingers. Her black painted nails tapped against the paper. Now, why would a rejected Omega be carrying something so precious? I stepped toward her. She lifted one eyebrow. Careful, Nysera. Give it back, Orintha smiled. There it is. The little clinic shadow has teeth. I said, give it back. Her nostrils flared slightly. She scented my fear. Something else. Her smile faded. For one terrible second, I saw the exact moment suspicion entered her eyes. Omega bodies change early when carrying alpha blood. Not enough for most to notice. Enough for a woman like Orintha, studied weakness the way healers studied wounds. Oh, she whispered. I lunged for the test. She caught my wrist and twisted. Pain flashed up my arm. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. Release her, a voice said from the end of the corridor. Orintha froze. So did I. War. Captain Race's Overin stood beneath a silver wall lamp, one hand resting near the crescent blade at her hips. Raylis was tall, broad-shouldered, scarred across one cheek, and feared by half the valley for reasons she had earned, honestly. She had no patience for nobles, no patience for theatrics, and, for reasons I had never fully understood, a dangerous softness for Omegas who tried too hard to survive alone. Orintha released my wrist slowly. Captain, she said, smooth as poisoned honey. This does not concern you. Raylis walked toward us. Boots struck the floor with calm violence. If an alpha has to twist an Omega's wrist to finish a conversation, the conversation became mine. Orintha's mouth tightened. Raylis held out one hand, what she dropped. Orintha looked at the wrapped test. My heart climbed into my throat. For a moment, I thought she would open it anyway. For a moment, I saw my future in pieces. Orintha laughing. Vaelith summoned, the council circling, my child spoken of as evidence, asset, threat, leverage. Then Raylis leaned closer. "Try me tonight," she said softly. "I am in an educational mood." Orintha's eyes flashed, but she handed the test to me. The second it touched my palm, I curled my fingers around it like it was alive. Orintha stepped back. Her gaze dropped briefly to my stomach, so briefly another woman might have missed it. I did not. "Secrets rot fastest under moonlight," she whispered. Then she turned and walked back toward the gala. I waited until her footsteps disappeared. Only then did I breathe. Raylis watched me carefully. "Can you stand?" "I am standing. Poorly. I'm fine." Every Omega, who says that is usually 3 seconds from falling over. I hated that my eyes burned again. Raylis's expression changed, not softened exactly. Raylis did not soften. But something in her face became less like steel and more like shield. "Nysera," she said quietly. "What did she take?" "Nothing. Do not lie to a woman who has hidden bodies from council inquiries." I stared at her. She stared back. I did not ask if she was joking. With Raylis, it was safer not to know. Behind us, applause rose again in the grand hall. Vaelith must have finished another speech. The sound scraped across my skin. I looked toward the corridor leading to the western wing, and toward the servant passage. This followed my gaze. "You want to run. I need to leave. Those are not always the same thing. Tonight." Her jaw tightened. "Does the Alpha know?" "The Alpha." "Not Vaelith. Not your Vaelith. The Alpha." I looked down at the white-wrapped test. "No." Raylis went silent. That silence told me she understood more than I wanted her to. Finally, she removed the black cloak from her shoulders and draped it around mine. It smelled like pine smoke, steel and storm. "This western servant gate changes guard at midnight," she said. "Go before then." I stared at her. "You're helping me disobey your Alpha, Molly. I am helping an Omega leave a room where every powerful woman failed her." My throat closed. "Why?" Raylis looked toward the grand hall. For a moment, old grief moved behind her eyes. "Because I once stayed when I should have run." She did not explain. I did not ask. She reached into her belt pouch and pressed 3 silver coins into my hand. "Take the Old North Road until the pines split. Do not follow the lantern stones. They lead checkpoints. Follow the creek instead. Raylis, if anyone asks, I never saw you. I don't know where to go. Then keep going until where you came from becomes farther than what can hurt you." That was not comforting, was enough. I left Velkharis in a ruined gala dress, a war captain's cloak, 3 coins, a pregnancy test, child. Vaelith did not know existed. The servant gate opened into the lower forest. Cold struck me immediately. Silver threads on my sleeves caught moonlight as I slipped into the trees. Behind me, Orqane's citadel glowed like a crown made of ice. Music drifted faintly from the grand hall. I wondered if Vaelith was dancing. I wondered if Orintha had touched her again. I wondered if Vaelith would come looking for me before dawn. Then I hated myself for wondering. I walked until the music disappeared. I walked until the cold numbed my feet. I walked until the blue silk tore at the hem, and mud swallowed the delicate shoes Vaelith had sent to my room that afternoon. I walked until my body finally understood what my heart had already known. There was no going back. First sickness. Hit before sunrise. I barely reached a fallen cedar before my stomach turned. Nothing came up except bitter tonic and panic. I gripped the bark with one hand, the other pressed low against my belly. "I'm sorry," I whispered. My voice cracked in the empty forest. "So sorry. I thought she would choose us." The tiny life inside me gave no answer. Of course it did not. But in the silence, my wolf curled tighter around that fragile new warmth, protective and furious. I had treated pregnant Omegas in the Lunary infirmary. I knew the rules. Rest, warmth, water, food, safety. I had none of them. Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Heir of Velkharis was beginning life on a frozen road with a mother wearing wet silk and borrowed grief. By the second morning, Old North Road had vanished into pine roots and fog. By the third, I sold Vaelith's silver chain in a market village called Eshvara Hollow. Jeweler was a sharp-eyed beta woman with inked fingers and a moonstone lens over one eye. She held the chain up to the light. "Orqane work?" she said. I said nothing. Her gaze flicked to my face, then my muddy dress, then Raylis's cloak, then back to the chain. Stolen? Given? Regretted? I almost laughed. Yes. She placed 6 silver crescents on the counter. It was worth at least 20. I took the 6. Pride was expensive. Survival could not afford it. With that money, I bought bread, dried apple slices, a second-hand wool dress, a pair of boots that pinched my toes, but did not sink in mud. In the washroom behind a tea shop, I changed out of the silver gala dress. For a long moment, I held it in my hands. Pale blue silk, torn hem, mud stains, moonlight thread, dress from the night I was supposed to become chosen. I folded it carefully and left it in the ashes beside the stove, not because it deserved ceremony. Because I did. 3 weeks later, I reached Verwyn Crossing. It was a small border town between Pack territories, built along a river that ran green under stone bridges. No one there cared who I had belonged to. No one lowered their head at the name Orqane. No one asked why an Omega with tired eyes and healer hands arrived alone with no papers. They only cared whether I could work. I could. Town clinic was run by Elder Savra Knoll, a gray-haired healer with a cane, a temper, and a habit of diagnosing lies before fevers. She hired me after watching me stitch a hunter's torn palm with neat, fast work. "You trained at a major Pack infirmary," she said. "Trained where I could." That is not an answer. It is the one I have. She studied me. Then she looked at my stomach. I was not showing yet, but Savra's eyes were old and rude. "Are you running from danger or heartbreak?" "Yes." Her mouth twitched. "Good." I charged danger double and heartbreak into yours. That was how I began again. Not beautifully, not bravely, just practically. I swept floors, boiled instruments, ground herbs, changed bandages, slept in the small room above the clinic, threw up every morning into a chipped basin, pretended not to miss Vaelith every night. The baby grew quietly. At first, only I knew. Then Savra knew, because Savra knew everything. Then a midwife named Illyra guessed after I fainted while carrying linen. Illyra was round-faced, cheerful, terrifyingly direct, and possessed of the strongest arms I had ever seen on a woman who smiled constantly. She caught me before I hit the floor, carried me upstairs, and announced, "Either you are pregnant or haunted." "Both," I whispered. She brought me ginger tea. Savra brought a lecture. Between the two of them, I survived the first trimester. Survival is not the same as healing. I learned that slowly. Healing was not waking every morning. Healing was not eating because the child needed food. Healing was not smiling at patients or learning the market vendors' names or sewing curtains for the clinic room. So it looked less like a storage closet. Those things were survival, dressed politely. Healing came in smaller moments. The first time I felt the baby flutter, barely more than a secret beneath my hand. The first night, I slept without dreaming of Vaelith's voice, saying misunderstanding. The first morning, I looked in the mirror and did not see the rejected Omega from the gala. I saw a woman with tired eyes, stronger hands, bodybuilding life, despite betrayal. I began to speak to the baby at night. Not long speeches, little things. River froze at the edges today. Savra yelled at a council clerk until she cried. Illyra says if you kick during herb inventory, that means you will be dramatic. You come from an Alpha line, but you are mine before you are anyone's legacy. I never said Vaelith's name, not out loud. Names have power when grief still listens, but the baby seemed to know. Whenever I thought of Vaelith too sharply, a small warmth inside me shifted. As if asking, as if remembering a scent it had never breathed. At 5 months, my scent changed enough that strangers noticed. Pregnant Omega scent is soft at first, milk-warm, moon-sweet. Carrying alpha blood makes it sharper, brighter, like a flame behind honey. Sèvres brood masking oils. I wore them daily. Border towns attract curiosity, she said. Curiosity. Spies, debt collectors, abandoned lovers, ambitious fools, women who smile too much. That is a broad category. Most threats are. I should have listened more carefully, because in the 6th month, Velkharis found me. Not Vaelith, first, Orintha. It happened during a rainstorm. The clinic was full of fever patients, wet boots, crying children, and the smell of boiled willow bark. I was in the storage room counting tincture bottles when the front door opened. The room outside went quiet, not normal quiet. Pack quiet. The kind that happens when a predator enters, and everyone's body knows before the mind catches up. I stepped into the hallway. Lady Orintha Scale stood near the reception desk in a dark traveling cloak. Rain glittered on her hair. 2 female guards waited behind her. Her smile found me immediately. "There you are," she said. My hand went to my belly before I could stop it. Her eyes followed the movement. Satisfaction bloomed across her face. "Oh, Nysera," she whispered. "You truly should have buried your secrets deeper." Sèvres stepped between us. I had never seen the old healer move so fast. "This is a clinic." Orintha looked at her like she was furniture, "and I am here for a patient." "No, you are here for drama. Take it outside and drown in it." One of the guards stepped forward. Alira appeared behind the counter, holding a metal tray like a weapon. The fever patient stared. My pulse thundered. Orintha's gaze stayed on me. "Alpha Vaelith has been looking for you." The name hit like a hand around my throat. I said nothing. Orintha tilted her head. Or perhaps I should say, she was looking for... Something cold slid down my spine. "What does that mean?" Her smile sharpened. "It means the Alpha has obligations now. Public ones. The Council grows impatient. A pack cannot mourn an Omega forever." Sèvres snorted. "A pack can, apparently, send overdressed poison into a sick room." Orintha ignored her. "I came to offer you a chance." "No. You have not heard it. I know your kind of chance." Her eyes flashed. "There is no kind. There is only survival. Yes. That is what cruel women say when they want cruelty." To sound wise, the room went still. Orintha's face changed. For the first time, I saw genuine anger beneath the polish. Then she looked at my stomach. "You carry Orqane blood." I felt every person in the clinic react. Sèvres' cane struck the floor once. "Careful." Orintha smiled again. "Do they know Nysera? Do your little border friends know what grows inside you?" My body went hot, then cold. Alira came to my side. Her hand found mine. She did not look shocked. She looked ready to break a tray over someone's head. That almost made me cry. Orintha stepped closer. "Come back quietly. Present the child properly. Council will be generous if you cooperate." I laughed. I could not help it. The sound was ugly. "Generous? You have no protection here." "I have more than I had under your chandeliers." "You think these women can stand against Velkharis?" Sèvres leaned on her cane. "I think you are standing in my clinic during storm season with wet boots and poor manners." Orintha's scent sharpened. Alpha anger. Every Omega in the room felt it. My knees weakened, but I did not step back. Not this time. "Tell Vaelith," I said, and my voice shook only a little, "that if she wants to speak to me, she can come herself." Orintha's smile returned. There was something wrong in it, something too pleased. Ah, softly. So you still hope. The words struck deeper than I wanted. Before I could answer, Orintha reached into her cloak and removed a folded paper sealed in silver wax, the Orqane crest. My breath caught. She held it out, then read what your hope has become. I did not move. Sevra took the letter instead, broke the seal, and read silently. Her face went hard. What is it? I asked. Savra did not answer quickly enough. I took the paper from her. The words blurred at first, then sharpened, a formal announcement. The Velkharis Council recognized the pending strategic union between Alpha Vaelith Orqane and Lady Orintha Scale. Not a bond yet, not final, but public. My heart did not break the same way as before. There are different kinds of breaking. Gala had been a shattering. This was quieter, a crack through something already damaged. Orintha watched my face like she was drinking it. She looked beautiful at the announcement, she said. Cold, of course, but beauty survives cold. My fingers crushed the paper, told myself to breathe. For the baby, for myself. For the woman I had become in this clinic, who did not collapse every time Vaelith chose wrong. Leave, I said. Orintha's eyes narrowed. You will regret defiance. No, I said. I regret trust. Defiance is new. I think I like it. Illyra made a tiny proud sound beside me. Saevra pointed her cane toward the door. Out. Orintha looked at my belly one last time. Voice. Velkharis will not let its heir be born in a border clinic. My hand spread protectively over the curve of my stomach. My child is not Velkharis property. For 1 second, the air between us felt sharp enough to cut. Then thunder cracked outside. Orintha turned and left. Her guards followed. The door slammed behind them. Only then did my legs give out. Illyra caught me. Saevra cursed at everyone to stop staring and return to being sick professionally. I did not cry until I was upstairs. When I did, it was quiet. Not because I was less hurt. It's because the baby kicked for the first time with real strength, as if objecting to my despair, pressed both hands to my stomach. You are right, I whispered. We are not done. That night, I dreamed of Vaelith. Not the gala, not the rejection. An older memory, the greenhouse, rain. Her head in my lap, her voice half asleep. If I ever become what they want, run from me. The dream, I asked. Will you chase me? Her silver eyes opened. I will tear the world apart trying. I woke, before dawn, with tears on my face and rage in my chest. Because she had not. Months passed. My belly grew heavy. Winter softened into early spring. The river thawed. Marsit children began leaving wildflowers on the clinic steps because Illyra told them pregnant healers needed tribute. Saevra pretended to hate the flowers and arranged them in jars as every morning. For a while I almost believed we would be safe. Vaelith arrived. Not with banners, not with soldiers, not with Orintha. She came alone during a storm. All terrible and sacred things in my life seemed determined to do. I was in the clinic office after closing, organizing birth records, and trying to ignore the ache in my lower back. Rain tapped the windows. A lamp burned low on the desk. The baby rolled restlessly beneath my ribs. You hate paperwork too, I murmured. Good taste. Then, the front door opened downstairs. I froze. Clinic was closed. Saevra was asleep in the back room. Illyra had gone home. Footsteps crossed the floor below. Slow, heavy with exhaustion. Not Orintha's elegant glide. Not a guard's march. My wolf woke violently. Recognition surged through me so hard I gripped the desk. Alpha. Not just any Alpha. Her. No. My breath vanished. The footsteps climbed the stairs. I should have locked the office door. I should have hidden. I should have picked up the letter opener beside the ink pot and prepared to defend myself like the clever, wounded woman I had promised to become. Dead, I stood there with one hand on my stomach and watched the door open. Vaelith Orqane stepped inside. For a second, neither of us moved. The storm filled the silence. She looked nothing like the untouchable Alpha from the gala. Her black traveling coat was soaked through. Her hair had come loose from its braid. Shadows bruised the skin beneath her eyes. There was a healing cut across her cheekbone and mud on her boots, but her eyes were the same, silver. Devastating, locked on me, like the world had narrowed to one impossible truth. Then her gaze dropped to my stomach. The room changed. I saw the moment she understood. Not suspicion, not calculation. Understanding struck her so hard one hand flew to the doorframe as if the floor had shifted. "Nysera," she whispered. My name in her mouth nearly undid me. I hated that. I hated that my body, traitorous and grieving, still softened at the sound. "Get out," I said. Vaelith flinched. "Good, I can explain," I laughed once. The sound was sharp enough to surprise us both. "That is bold of you." Her throat worked. "I deserve that. You deserve worse." "I know." "No," I said, stepping back as she stepped forward. "You do not know. You do not get to arrive, soaked and wounded and tragic, after months of silence, and say you know." Her sighs filled with pain. I refused to care. Cared. Of course I cared. That was the worst part. If love died the moment someone betrayed you, heartbreak would be merciful. But love lingers, like scent in fabric. It hides in muscle memory. It waits until the woman who ruined you says your name, and suddenly, every healed place aches again. Vaelith took another step. I lifted the letter opener. Her gaze flicked to it. She stopped immediately, not because she feared it, because I held it, because I needed distance. At least she understood that much. "How did you find me?" I asked. Raylis flared. She told you?" "No, she lied to me for months." I blinked. Vaelith's mouth twisted faintly, not with humor. "She is very good at it." "How?" "Because Orintha came back, smelling like this town in fear. My blood went cold." "She told you?" "She told the council." My hand tightened around the letter opener. Vaelith's eyes dropped to my belly again. Her face changed each time she looked. Away. Horror, grief, wonder, shame. All of it crossed her with no armor strong enough to hide it. "I did not know," she said. "No. You made sure you didn't have to." The words hit. She accepted them. That almost made me angrier. I wanted her defensive, cruel, alpha cold. I wanted something I could fight. Instead, stood there, looking like a woman who had opened a door and found her own soul bleeding on the floor. "I looked for you," she said. "Not well enough. Every road. Not this one." Raylis hid the trail. "Good. I deserve that too. Stop agreeing with me." Her eyes lifted. "Would you prefer I lie again?" The room went silent. My chest tightened. That word. Again. It sat between us, like the gala itself. Vaelith looked away first. "I did lie," she said. "In the hall. At the oath. To the pack. To you. To myself, most of all." I swallowed. "Why are you here?" "Because Orintha knows." Fear moved through me, immediate and primal. My hand went to my stomach. Vaelith saw it. Her whole body went still. "She will use it," Vaelith said. "The council will use it. If the child carries Orqane blood, they will try to claim legal guardianship under the old succession statutes. My child is not a statute. No, do not stand in my clinic and speak like you are the only one who understands danger." Her jaw tightened. Not anger. "Pain, I came to warn you." "Then?" She did not answer. That silence was answer enough. I laughed again, but this time it nearly broke. "You came to bring me back. I came to bring you somewhere safe." "Velkharis is not safe. I know. Your office is not safe. Your council is not safe. Oath Hall is not safe. Your hands were not safe." Her face crumpled for half a second. Then she bowed her head. "My hands were not safe," she whispered. The admission landed harder than denial would have. I hated the tears that rose. Do not do that. Do what? Sound sorry like it fixes anything. It fixes nothing. Then why say it? Because it is true. Thunder rolled outside. The baby kicked. Hard. I winced before I could hide it. Vaelith's eyes sharpened. What happened? Nothing. Nysera, do not use that voice. What voice? The one that still thinks my body reports to you. She went pale. Then she stepped back. Immediately. I'm sorry. I lowered the letter opener slightly. My hand trembled. I hated that too. Vaelith saw it. She removed her gloves slowly and placed them on the small side table. A peace offering. A memory. In the greenhouse, she had always taken her gloves off before touching me. Now she took them off and did not reach. Somehow that hurt more. How far along? She asked. I should not have answered. I knew that. But the question was not Alpha to Omega. It was mother to mother. Though she had no right to the word yet. 7 months. Vaelith closed her eyes. Her breath shook. 7 months of absence crossed her face like a sentence. You were sick alone. I had Sevra. You were afraid. I had myself. You should not have had to. No, I said, I should not have. She opened her eyes. They were wet. Vaelith Orqane, the woman who had once made an entire council chamber, kneel with one sentence, stood in a border clinic office, and looked like she did not know how to survive the sight of my stomach. Is the child healthy? She asked. Yes, Fils. Reliefs struck her so visibly I had to look away. The part of me that still loved her wanted to comfort her. The part of me that had learned better held still. Good, she whispered. Good. Do not cry. She gave a broken little laugh. I am trying not to. Mean it, Vaelith. Do not come here and make me responsible for your grief. That silenced her. I saw the words enter. Saw her understand. She nodded once. You are right, I know. A faint, devastated softness crossed her face. You always did. It was too familiar, too close to the old rhythm. I stepped back. No. Her expression closed carefully. What? You do not get to speak to me like we are still in the greenhouse. The word greenhouse hurt both of us. I saw it. She swallowed. You are right. Stop saying that. I don't know what else to say. Say why. Her eyes lifted. Why what? Why you rejected me. The storm seemed to pause. For months, I had imagined asking. In dreams, I screamed. In waking life, I rehearsed calm speeches while folding clinic linen. Sometimes I pictured Vaelith confessing she had been threatened. Sometimes I pictured her admitting she never loved me. Sometimes I pictured Orintha blackmailing her. Sometimes, in my cruelest moments, I pictured Vaelith simply choosing convenience. Now she stood before me, and I needed the answer more than I wanted to. Vaelith's face went still. Not cold, controlled. There was a difference. Dawn before the gala, she said. The council presented evidence that my bond with you made Velkharis vulnerable. I waited. My mother's private journals had been stolen from the sealed archive. I had never heard Vaelith speak of her mother without that shuddered edge in her voice. The former Alpha Vaelith Orqane had died when Vaelith was young. Velkharis spoke of Nysera like a legend. Vaelith spoke of her almost never. What was in them? I asked. Proof that the council had manipulated succession rights for 3 generations. Proof that several noble houses, including Orintha's, had used forced heat contracts and illegal Omega confinement to control heirs. Stomach turned. Vaelith's voice remained steady, but her hands curled at her sides. My mother knew. She planned to expose them. Then she died in a border ambush the council ruled accidental. I whispered. You think it wasn't. I know it wasn't. The room felt colder. The morning. Solvara told me the journals would vanish forever unless I agreed to deny you publicly and enter negotiations with Orintha. Grip on the letter opener weakened. Vaelith looked at me. They said if I chose you, they would destroy the evidence, remove me through a council vote, and place Orintha as regent until a new Alpha was approved. So you chose the journals. I chose what I thought would let me destroy them later. I stared at her. That is your explanation? Her face tightened. Yes, you humiliated me to play a longer game. I thought, if I warned you, your reaction would reveal too much. I thought if I looked weak, they would move faster. I thought I could come to you after. But you didn't. No. Why? Her silver eyes broke. Because when I came to the infirmary after the gala, you were gone. My breath caught. I searched your room, your bed, the greenhouse, the east stairwell. Everywhere. Raylis told me she had not seen you. Marith said you had asked for leave earlier, which was a lie I think she created, while staring directly at my throat like she wanted to cut it. Despite everything, a tiny sound escaped me, not laughter. Close enough to hurt. Vaelith's mouth trembled once, then steadied. I thought you had run because of me. You had. Thought I deserved not to know where. I did. Then Orintha began watching every search order I made. Every messenger. Every road. I searched too loudly. She would find you before I did. So you stopped? I searched quietly. Not well enough. I repeated. She bowed her head. No. Silence stretched. I wanted the explanation to make the pain smaller. It did not. That was the cruel truth. Reasons are not healing. Sometimes they are only knives with names carved into the handles. You could have trusted me, I said. Vaelith's eyes lifted. I know. Could have looked at me in that hall and given me anything. A warning. A sign. One word that belonged to us. I know. You let me think I meant nothing. Her voice broke. I know. The tears came then. Mine, not hers. Hot, furious, unwanted. I was pregnant, he said. I know now. No, you do not. I was pregnant then, while they clapped, while Orintha smiled, while you called us a misunderstanding. I was standing there with your child inside me, wondering if I had imagined every tender thing you ever said. Vaelith covered her mouth with one hand. For a second, I thought she might fall. I did not move to help her. I could not. She lowered her hand. I should have burned the council that night. Yes, I should have chosen you. Yes, I was a coward. That word landed strangely. Vaelith Orqane was many things. Cruel in control, brilliant in strategy, terrible in sacrifice. Coward was a word no one in Velkharis would dare use. Hearing her use it on herself did not satisfy me. It only made the room heavier. Cannot forgive you, because you finally named it, I said. I did not come to ask forgiveness. Then what do you want? Gaze dropped to my stomach again. This time, she looked away quickly, as though forcing herself not to claim even with her eyes. I want you alive. I want the child free. I want Orintha and Solvara unable to touch either of you. I want to give you the evidence my mother died protecting. I want you to decide what happens next. I stared at her. What evidence? Vaelith reached inside her coat and removed a black leather case. She placed it on the desk between us. Not in my hands. Between us. I did not open it. What is that? Copies of the journals, birth contracts, council seals, heat confinement orders, names, dates, payments. My mouth went dry. Why bring them to me? Because the council believes I will use them only to negotiate for power. And will you? No. Should I believe that? She looked at me. For the first time since entering, something's alpha sharp returned to her eyes. Not dominance, resolve. Because I am going to release them at the Blood Moon Convocation in 9 days. My heart stopped. The Blood Moon Convocation was not a gala. It was older, bigger. A gathering of 7 packs, neutral tribunals, healer houses, oath witnesses, and border authorities. No council could bury a charge made there. No alpha could retract testimony. without blood penalty. If Vaelith exposed Velkharis publicly, the pack would erupt. If she failed, Orintha would own the narrative. Solvara would move against her. The council would claim the child. And me, tell me, I asked. Because Orintha will come for you, before then. Fear tightened around my ribs. Vaelith's voice lowered. Cannot secure her place while you carry my heir. If she proves the pregnancy before the convocation, she can petition the council to place you under protective custody. Custody. I know. The word made my skin crawl. Protective custody was old law language for a decorated prison. Omegas had disappeared into it for generations. For their safety, good of the pack, for the unborn child. Always pretty words over locked doors. I looked at the leather case. Then at Vaelith, brought me a war. I brought you the truth. The war was already coming. The baby shifted again. Slow, heavy, a reminder that choices were no longer only mine. I placed both hands on my belly and breathed through the tightness in my chest. Vaelith watched, every muscle tense with restraint. Do you want to feel? I asked before I could stop myself. The words shocked us both. Vaelith went utterly still. I almost took them back. Pride opened its mouth. But something older than both, something tired of punishing myself for her sins, held the words in place. Her voice was barely audible. Only if you want me to. I do not know what I want. Then I will not. Voy. That answer broke something small and dangerous in me. Because once, Vaelith would have reached first. Not cruelly, not forcefully, but with the confidence of being wanted. Now she stood 3 steps away, hands empty, letting my uncertainty be law. Growth should not hurt. It does. Took one careful breath. Come here. Vaelith moved slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. Maybe she was. Maybe I was. Maybe both. She stopped, close enough that I could smell rain in her coat and the familiar winter cedar bite of her alpha. Scent beneath it. My body reacted immediately. The baby did too. A strong kick pressed beneath my left hand. I winced. Vaelith's breath caught. I took her bare hand. Her fingers were cold. For a second, memory flashed so vividly. I nearly. Her hands around mine in the greenhouse. Her palm against my fevered cheek. Her thumb at my wrist. Her touch had once meant safety so completely that my body still reached for it before my mind could object. I placed her hand on the side of my stomach. The baby kicked. Vaelith stopped breathing. Her face changed, in a way I had no defense against. All the alpha vanished, all the strategy, all the ruin. She looked young, terrified. Amazed, destroyed. A second kick followed. Stronger. Vaelith made a sound I had never heard from her. Not a sob, not quite. A broken inhale from a woman, meeting the consequence of love and betrayal in the same heartbeat. She is strong, Vaelith whispered. She? I don't know. Her eyes flicked to mine. I only felt. I looked down. My throat tightened. I think she is too. Vaelith's hand trembled against my belly. The baby pressed again, as if recognizing something ancient in her blood. Vaelith closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her cheek. This time, I did not tell her not to cry. But I did not comfort her either. After a moment, I stepped back. Her hand fell away. The absence felt too loud. I am not coming back to Velkharis, I said. Vaelith wiped her face quickly and nodded. I know. You are not taking the baby. Her expression sharpened with horror. Never. If the council tries, I will run again. I know. If you betray me again, I will not give you another conversation. Her silver eyes met mine. I know. And if you want to be part of her life, you earn that from the beginning. Not as Alpha, not as Orqane. As her face crumpled slightly around her own name. As Vaelith, she said, downstairs. Floorboards creaked. Sevra's cane struck once. Then her voice rose through the ceiling. If the soaked disaster upstairs is the Alpha, tell her she is dripping on my floor. Vaelith blinked. I closed my eyes. For one absurd second, I almost laughed. Almost. Sound came out half broken. Vaelith stared at me, like that tiny almost law was more precious than forgiveness. It was not. But it was something. The next 9 days were not romantic. Stories lie about reunions. They make them rain-soaked and beautiful, full of kisses and immediate healing. Truth was uglier. Vaelith slept in a chair downstairs because Nysera refused to give an Alpha the spare bed on moral grounds. Vaelith arrived 2 days later with 3 loyal warriors, all women I had seen at Velkharis, but never spoken to. She entered the clinic, looked at Vaelith, looked at me, looked at my stomach, and said, "Well, this is worse than expected." Nysera handed her tea. Vaelith accepted it like a battlefield report. Vaelith and I argued every day. Quietly at first, then not quietly. We argued about guards, about travel routes, about whether I would attend the convocation. Vaelith said no. I said she had lost the right to decide what rooms I stood in. She said the danger was real. I said so was my anger. She said Orintha would target me. I said Orintha already had. Nysera listened from the doorway, while peeling apples with a knife too large for fruit. Finally she said, "Either of you raises your voice near a pregnant Omega again, I will sedate both alphas and enjoy the peace." Vaelith looked offended. Vaelith looked interested. Nysera asked if sedation dosage varied by arrogance. For the first time in months, I felt something like family around me. Not blood, not pack. Something chosen and sharp and imperfect. Vaelith noticed, saw, the grief in her eyes, when Nysera tucked a blanket around my shoulders without asking permission. When Nysera scolded me into eating more stew, Vaelith stood outside the clinic door all night in the rain, without once calling it sacrifice. Vaelith was seeing what I had built without her. Good. She needed to see it. Need is not cruelty when the truth has been avoided too long. On the 5th night, I found Vaelith in the clinic's back garden. The rain had stopped. Clouds moved slowly across the moon. She stood near the herb beds, reading one of her mother's copied journals by lantern light. Her face was carved with pain. I should have gone back inside. Instead, I said, "What did she write?" Vaelith did not startle. She always knew when I approached. Even now. She wrote about Omegas hidden in the North Tower. Stomach tightened. "Velkharis has a North Tower?" Had. It was sealed before I was born. What happened there? Vaelith closed the journal. Pregnant Omegas were kept there when their children carried disputed Alpha blood. The councils hold it preservation. I felt sick. Vaelith looked at the dark clinic windows. My mother tried to dismantle the law. And they killed her? Yes. The word was flat, not because she felt nothing, because she felt too much. I stood beside her, leaving space between us. The herb bed smelled like wet mint and moonroot. Vaelith's scent was quiet, contained by discipline. "You were a child," I said. Her jaw tightened. "Yes. They trained you after that. Yes, to fear softness. Yes, to choose strategy before love." Her eyes closed. Yes, I looked at her profile. Sharp. Beautiful. Exhausted. "I understand why you became what you became," I said. Her eyes opened. The hope in them hurt to see. Then I finished. "But I was still the one you cut." Hope became grief. She nodded. "I know. This time, didn't..." The words did not anger me. Maybe because she did not say them to make the conversation end. She said them. Like she would keep knowing it for as long as I needed. Good. Let her. "I did love you," she said quietly. My throat tightened. "Do not." "I am not asking anything." "Then why say it?" "Because I lied in front of everyone. You deserve to hear one truth with no audience." The garden went very still. I wanted to tell her love was not enough. I wanted to tell her I had loved her too, and that was the problem. I wanted to tell her. The baby kicked hardest when she was near. And I hated that because it felt like my own body voting against my pride. Instead, I looked at the moonroot leaves. I loved you so much I thought rejection would kill me, I said. Vaelith's breath stopped. It didn't. No, I am glad. You do not get credit for that. No, but I am glad too. We stood there under the cold moon, not touching. For once, that was enough. The blood moon convocation was held at Arvessa Spire, a neutral fortress. Carved into a cliff above a black lake, 7 packs sent banners. Healer houses sent witnesses. Border courts sent oath scribes. Here, the old tribunal circle had been built, before Velkharis existed, before Orqane blood meant anything, before councils learned to wrap chains in ceremony. I arrived wearing a dark green dress. Syevra had altered for my belly, Raylus's cloak, and no jewelry. Vaelith offered the Orqane carriage. I refused. We traveled in Savra's battered clinic wagon instead. Vaelith rode beside it, on a black wolf mare. Looking like a dethroned queen, forced to follow common sense down a muddy road, Illyra said. The image nourished her spirit. Vaelith did not respond. Progress. At the spire gates, every eye turned to us. Of course they did, visibly pregnant Omega arriving. Beside Alpha Vaelith Orqane. 9 days after rumors of an Orqane heir had begun spreading across the territories was not subtle. Whispers moved like wind. Is that her? The rejected Omega? She carries the heir. Why is the Alpha not claiming her? Why is she walking with border healers? I kept my chin raised. My legs trembled under the dress. No one needed to know. Vaelith walked 2 steps behind me. Not beside me. Not ahead. Behind. A deliberate choice. I heard the whispers change when they noticed. Good. Let them learn confusion. Inside, the tribunal hall was circular, built of dark stone and silver-veined pillars. At the center stood the oath floor, a ring of pale marble where testimony became binding under moon law. Council matriarch Solvara was already there. So was Orintha. Orintha wore white today. It did not make her look innocent. It made her look like a knife in ceremonial cloth. Her eyes found my belly immediately, then Vaelith, then the distance between us. Her smile turned thoughtful. Solvara's face gave away nothing. She was old, elegant, and terrifying, white hair braided down her back, and eyes like polished bone. Once, I had feared her. Now I only hated what she represented. That was easier. The high witness, a stern woman named Avara Thele, struck the floor with a silver staff. The convocation began. There were formalities, titles, oaths, pack disputes, border tariffs, an argument between 2 coastal alphas over fishing rights that made Sevra mutter, imagine having time for fish drama. Then Velkharis was called. Vaelith stepped into the oath circle. The hall changed. Even here, even with enemies waiting, even with scandal circling her like ravens, she was still Alpha. Power moved with her. Not loud. Not wild. Deep, ancient, dangerous. Mine, my wolf whispered. No, I told it. Not now. Maybe not ever. The baby kicked as if offended by my uncertainty. Vaelith placed the black leather case on the witness stone. Her voice carried clearly. I bring charges against the Velkharis Council. The hall erupted. Solvara stood. This is not on the docket. High Witness Avara struck the staff again. It is now. Orintha's face sharpened. Vaelith opened the case. Charges include illegal Omega confinement, forged heat contracts, manipulation of succession rights, suppression of medical records, and conspiracy in the death of Alpha Vaelith Orqane. This time, the hall did more than whisper. It roared. Solvara went pale for half a second. Orintha did not. She watched Vaelith with a strange calm. Too calm. My stomach tightened. Raylus, standing behind me, leaned closer. She has a counterstrike. How do you know? She looks pleased. Vaelith began presenting evidence. Journal copies. Seals. Names. Dates. records from the North Tower, testimony from 2 retired healers who had arrived under guard from Raylis's loyalists. Every word peeled skin from Velkharis's polished history. Omegas confined during disputed pregnancies, children reassigned to noble houses, mothers declared unstable, bonds dissolved by false testimony. I listened with one hand over my belly in rage building. So hot, it burned away fear. This was bigger than me. That did not make my pain smaller. It made my survival part of something monstrous and old. Then Orintha stepped forward. "High witness," she said. "Before Alpha Vaelith continues this theatrical self-destruction, I request the pregnant Omega be placed under neutral protection." The hall went quiet. Vaelith turned slowly. Her eyes became silver fire. "No," Orintha smiled. "You do not speak for her. You made that clear at your own gala." The words hit the room perfectly. A few faces turned toward me. Vaelith went still. Orintha continued. "Nysera Veyl was publicly denied by Alpha Vaelith. Now she appears carrying possible Orqane blood, surrounded by Vaelith's loyalists, while the Alpha attempts to overthrow her council. How convenient." My hands went cold. Orintha looked at me, sweetly. Is she here of her own will? Or has the Alpha reclaimed what she first discarded? Vaelith's scent sharpened. Raylis moved one step. I touched her arm. "No." Then I walked into the oath circle. Vaelith turned toward me. Her face changed instantly. Fear, not for herself. For me. I ignored it. The floor felt cold beneath my shoes. Every woman in the hall watched. Good. I had been humiliated in public once. Truth have the same stage. High Witness Avera looked at me. "State your name." "Nysera Veyl." "Blood status?" "Omega." "Pack." I paused. Every Velkharis gaze sharpened. My answer mattered. Once I would have said Velkharis automatically. Because birth does that. Because fear does that. Belonging is sometimes just the cage you know best. Now I placed one hand on my stomach and lifted my chin. Unclaimed. A ripple moved through the hall. Vaelith closed her eyes briefly. I did not know whether the word hurt her. It should. Avara nodded. "Do you enter the oath circle freely?" "Yes." "Speak." I looked at Orintha first, then Solvara, then Vaelith. Finally, the hall. I was Vaelith Orqane's secret Omega for almost a year. The words rang across stone. No hiding now. No misunderstanding. Vaelith's jaw tightened, not in denial. In pain. We were not formally bonded, but we were not nothing. I loved her. She loved me. And at the Silver Oath Gala, denied me in front of the pack. The hall held its breath. I forced myself not to look at Vaelith. I was pregnant that night. Gasps broke out. Orintha smiled. Vaelith looked like the words cut her all over again. Good. Truth should hurt where lies lived. I did not know about the council evidence. I did not know about the journals. I did not know about threats against Alpha Kaelira's records. I only knew the woman I trusted looked at me and called us a misunderstanding. My voice shook. I let it. The next morning, I left, not because I was stolen, not because I was manipulated, because I was humiliated, heartbroken, afraid my child would become pack property if anyone knew. High Witness Avara watched me carefully. I looked at her. I came here freely, stand here freely. And I reject any petition that places me under Velkharis custody, Orqane custody, scale custody, or any pretty cage disguised as protection. A murmur spread. Orintha's expression hardened. I was not finished. My child is not a political asset, body, is not a succession tool. My fear is not consent. And if any woman in this hall believes an Omega becomes public property because she carries alpha blood, then maybe the council is not the only rot that needs naming. Silence. Deep, stunned, living. Then Sayevra's cane struck the floor once in approval. Illyra sniffed loudly. Raylis whispered. Very educational. Vaelith stared at me like I had become the moon. Orintha recovered first. How stirring, she said. But emotion does not answer law. No, the witness Avara said, but testimony does. Orintha's smile faltered. Avara lifted the silver staff. Nysera Veyl has entered sworn testimony. Under neutral law, no custody petition can proceed without medical threat, criminal charge, or proven coercion. Do you bring such evidence? Orintha's eyes flashed. Not yet. Then sit. The hall reacted, quietly, dangerously. Orintha did not sit. Instead, she looked at Vaelith. Tell them the rest, Alpha. Vaelith's face went still. My stomach tightened. What rest? I asked. Orintha's smile returned, slow and cruel. Tell your brave Omega why you truly rejected her. The hall shifted. Vaelith did not move. I turned toward her. Vaelith? Her eyes met mine. Pain, shame. Fear, a kind of fear I had not seen before. Orintha stepped closer to the edge of the oath circle. She told you about the journals, I assume, about the council threats. Very noble, very tragic. But did she tell you the specific threat that finally made her obey? My breath thinned. Vaelith whispered, Orintha. No, Alpha. Truth has such momentum now. Let it run. High Witness Avera's gaze sharpened. Lady Scale, speak plainly or be silent. With pleasure, Orintha said. Then she looked at me. The council did not merely threaten evidence. They threatened you. The hall disappeared for a second. All sound narrowed. Me. Vaelith's face confirmed it before anyone said more. Orintha continued. The morning of the gala. Solvera gave Vaelith a choice. Deny you publicly and enter negotiations with my house, or watch the council declare you an unlawful heat influence over the Alpha. You would have been arrested before midnight. My hand found my belly. Vaelith took one step toward me. Stopped. Is it true? Her silence was enough. I asked again. Is it true? Yes, she said. The word came out raw. Rage moved through me, but it was confused now. Not softer, not gone. Only tangled with horror. You didn't tell me. I thought if you knew, you would try to fight them. I would have, I know. So you chose for me. Yes. The honesty struck harder than any excuse. Vaelith's voice shook. I chose wrong. Orintha laughed softly. How moving. Alpha admits control while pretending it was love. Vaelith turned on her. The power in the hall changed instantly. Every wolf instinct in me lifted its head. Vaelith's Alpha presence unfurled. Not wild, but immense, cold, and ancient. Orintha's smile thinned. Vaelith said, You do not get to speak of love. I know more about power. Yes. That is why you keep mistaking it for victory. Orintha's eyes darkened. Then she did the thing desperate predators do. She struck where blood was softest. Nysera know about the binding clause? Vaelith went pale. My stomach dropped. What binding clause? No one answered. The silence was terrible. Solvara finally smiled. It was the first expression she had shown since the evidence began. Alpha, Vaelith, Solvara said. Truth is your chosen weapon. Perhaps you should bleed properly. I looked at Vaelith. What clause? Vaelith's voice was low. Strategic union contract. With Orintha? Yes. What about it? Her hands curled at her sides. Included any existing offspring of my bloodline. The words did not make sense at first. Then they did. Cold horror opened beneath me. No, was unsigned, Vaelith said quickly. But prepared. Yes. If you signed it, Orintha would have claim. Not full claim, but legal proximity. Legal proximity, I repeated. My voice sounded distant, like someone else's. Vaelith looked ill. I would never have signed it, darling, but you let it exist. I was stalling. You let a contract exist where my child was a clause. The hall faded again. I could barely breathe. Vaelith stepped closer. I stepped back. The pain on her face was immediate. Good. Let it be. Nysera, she said no, trying to keep them from moving faster. No, I swear to you, I never meant. You never mean the blade. You only keep handing it to other women and calling that strategy. The words echoed across the oath circles. Vaelith stopped, completely, saw them land, saw them cut through every defense she had left. Orintha smiled with satisfaction. She thought she had won. Maybe she had. For a moment, I could not tell. Then the baby kicked. Hard. So hard. I gasped and bent forward. Vaelith moved instinctively. Raylis moved faster. She reached me first, one arm steady at my back. Breathe, Raylis murmured. I am breathing. Badly again. Sevra entered the circle without waiting for permission. High Witness Avara opened her mouth. Sevra pointed her cane at her. Try stopping a healer from reaching a pregnant Omega, and see how historic this convocation becomes. Avara wisely said nothing. Sevra checked my pulse. Illyra appeared, with water. The entire tribunal hall watched as my chosen women formed a wall around me. Not Vaelith's council, not Orqane blood. Mine. After a moment, the tightening eased. Sevra's expression remained grim. Stress is not decorative, you snapped at the room. Perhaps everyone could stop throwing legal daggers at the pregnant woman for 3 consecutive minutes. Avara struck the staff. We will recess. No, I said. Sevra glared. Nysera. No. I straightened slowly with Raylis' support. My legs shook. My voice did not. We finished this. Vaelith looked at me with open fear. Please sit. I laughed softly. Now you ask. She flinched. I faced High Witness Avara. I want the contract entered into record. Solvara's smile vanished. Orintha's eyes narrowed. Vaelith stared. I continued. There is a document naming my child as a clause. I want every witness here to see it. Avara looked to the scribes. Produce the contract, Solvara said. It is a private negotiation draft. Avara's staff struck hard enough to echo. Concerns an unborn child invoked in sworn proceedings. Produce it. Orintha did not move. Raylis smiled. It was not a friendly expression. I can retrieve it, she offered. Orintha's jaw tightened. A guard from the neutral tribunal approached her. After a tense silence, Orintha removed a sealed packet from her attendant's case, so she had brought it. Of course she had. A weapon waiting for the right wound. Packet was opened. The contract read aloud. Every word made me colder. Strategic union. Bloodline preservation. Shared guardianship evaluation. Omega maternal stability assessment. Unborn issue of Alpha Vaelith Orqane. Not baby. Not child. Issue. By the time the scribe finished, the hall was no longer whispering. It was listening with a different kind of hunger. Not gossip, judgment. I looked at Vaelith. Did you know the wording? Yes. When? The day after the gala, another cut. You let me run while this existed. I did not know you were pregnant then, but you knew. They were capable of this. Yes. And you still played politics. Vaelith's face had gone very still. Not defensive. Destroyed. Yes, I looked away. Something inside me settled. Not forgiveness, not hatred, boundary, clean and absolute. I turned to Avara. I want the contract voided publicly. Avara nodded. That can be considered. No, I said. I want it voided now. Solvara stood. You have no authority to demand. I have the authority of the named maternal party, whose unborn child was included without consent. Sevra muttered. Good. I lifted my chin. And I want charges added against every woman who drafted, approved, carried, or intended to enforce it. The hall erupted. Orintha's expression finally cracked. Vaelith stared at me with something like awe and terror. Avara raised the staff. Silence. Slowly, the hall obeyed. The high witness looked at the contract, then at me, then at Vaelith. Alpha, Orqane, do you support the Omega's petition? Every eye turned to Vaelith. This was the moment, not the gala. Not the office, not the greenhouse. Here, to protect strategy. She could soften the petition. She could ask for time. She could do what she had always done. Calculate the least damaging sacrifice and call it leadership. Vaelith stepped into the center of the oath circle. She faced the hall. Then, slowly, she knelt. Gasps broke out. Alphas did not kneel in tribunal circles, unless surrendering war claim, begging blood mercy, or taking a vow that could kill them if broken. My heart stopped. Vaelith bowed her head. Not to Avara, not to the council. To me. Port Nysera Veyl's petition, she said. Her voice carried through the hall. And I add my own oath. I renounce all claim over her body, her movement, and her medical decisions. I renounce any automatic paternal, alpha, or bloodline privilege over the child she carries. My breath caught. Vaelith continued. If I am permitted a place in that child's life, it will be by Nysera's consent, and the child's welfare, by Orqane law, not by council decree, not by blood. The hall was silent. Even Orintha looked stunned. Vaelith lifted her head. Her silver eyes met mine. And I submit myself for inquiry regarding my participation in the public rejection, the negotiation proceedings, and my failure to warn the Omega targeted by my council. Vaelith, I whispered. She did not look away. This was not a performance, not entirely. Performances seek applause. Vaelith looked like she expected a sentence. Maybe she deserved one, maybe. This was the first true thing she had done in public. Avara studied her for a long moment, then struck the staff. Contract is void under neutral witness. Charges will be added. Alpha Vaelith Orqane's self-submission is entered into record. Solvara sat slowly. Orintha's face hardened into something ugly. You think kneeling makes you noble? She hissed. Vaelith rose. No, I think standing beside you made me complicit. Orintha's hand twitched toward the ceremonial dagger at her waist. Raylis moved. So did the neutral guards. Orintha froze. Avara's voice rang cold. Lady Orintha Scale, you will surrender all documents and remain available for tribunal inquiry. Orintha smiled then. A terrible smile. I will do more than remain available. Before anyone could stop her, she pulled a small glass vial from her sleeve and smashed it on the floor. Black smoke exploded across the oath circle. The hall erupted. Raylis shoved me behind her. Vaelith lunged toward us. Someone screamed. Smoke burned my throat. Not smoked. Powder. Scent disruptor. My Omega senses went blind. Every alpha scent vanished. Every familiar trace disappeared under bitter ash. Panic hit instantly. Hands grabbed me. Not Raylis. Not Savra. Wrong grip. Wrong scent. Swung blindly and struck someone's face. A woman cursed. Illyra shouted my name. Vaelith roared. Not a word. Sound so alpha deep the stone seemed to shake. The hands dragged me backward. Pain tore through my shoulder. My belly tightened. No, no, no. Twisted, kicked, clawed. Someone clamped cloth over my mouth. Bitter herbs flooded my tongue. The world tilted. Through the smoke, I saw Vaelith break through two guards like they were shadows. Her eyes found mine for 1 second. Wild, terrified. Mine! My wolf cried. Darkness took me. I woke to the sound of water dripping. For a moment, I thought I was back in the greenhouse. Rain on glass. Moonflowers. Vaelith's hands. Then I smelled stone mold, old iron, and Orintha's perfume. My eyes opened. I was lying on a narrow bed, in a round room, with no windows. A lantern burned on the wall. My wrists were not tied. It frightened me more than restraints would have. If Orintha had not bound me, she believed the room was enough. I sat up too fast. Pain pulled across my belly. I gasped and pressed both hands there. The baby moved, alive, strong. Thank the moon. The door opened. Orintha entered carrying a silver tray. Tea. Bread. a bowl of fruit, a monstrous imitation of care. "You should eat," she said. I stared at her. "Where am I?" "Somewhere old." "The North Tower." Her smile widened. "It's clever." A cold horror moved through me. The sealed tower, place from Kaelira's journals. The place where pregnant Omegas had been kept for preservation. "You are insane. History prefers traditional." I swung my legs off the bed. Orintha set the tray on a small table. "Do not waste your strength. The door is moonlocked. The walls are warded. Your scent is masked from the outside. Not even Vaelith can track you." "Vaelith." My chest tightened. "What happened at the convocation?" Orintha inspected the fruit. "Chaz, very unflattering for everyone." "Vaelith?" "She lived." Relief struck before I could stop it. Orintha noticed. Expression sharpened. "How loyal your heart remains, even after all that public dignity." "I am not loyal to her." "No, you are worse. You love her with conditions now." "That is much harder to manipulate." I stood slowly. My legs felt weak but usable. "What do you want?" "The same thing everyone wants. Control of what comes next." "My child is not yours." "Not yet." I grabbed the nearest object, a ceramic cup, threw it at her head. She dodged. The cup shattered against the door. Orintha sighed. "Pregnancy has made you theatrical. Come closer and see what else it made me." For a second, admiration flickered across her face. "That made me feel sicker than hatred would have." "You could have been useful," she said. "I would rather be difficult." "Yes, I am learning that." She stepped closer. I stepped back, keeping the bed between us. Orintha's gaze dropped to my stomach. "The child will carry extraordinary blood. Orqane alpha line through Vaelith, Veyl omega. Resilience through you. Possibly the first female-born alpha heir conceived without formal bond sanction in living memory. Do not speak about her like a specimen." "She is more than a specimen. She is a key." "To what?" "To legitimacy." The word chilled me. Orintha's eyes burned now with something beyond ambition. "I spent my life beside thrones. I was told I could approach, but never inherit. Scale blood is ancient, but never central. Always allied, always adjacent, always useful." Vaelith was born, and the entire territory knelt before a child, with grief in her eyes and power in her bones. "You are jealous." "I am awake." "You are pathetic." Her face hardened. Then she smiled. "Careful, Nysera. You are brave because Vaelith taught you were worth protecting." "No," I said. "I became brave when she failed to." That landed. Orintha's smile vanished. "Good." The towers blurred. I counted time by meals, lantern oil, and the baby's movements. Orintha visited twice daily. Sometimes she spoke like a negotiator, sometimes like a jailer, sometimes, disturbingly, like a lonely woman who had forgotten the difference. She offered safety, status, a private suite, formal place in Velkharis after the child was born. "The council will fall," she said on the second day. "Solvara is old. Vaelith is disgraced. Heir under my protection, I can stabilize this pack. You kidnapped me. I relocated you. I will bite you. You are very attached to moral language. You are very attached to crimes." On the third day, contractions began. False ones at first, practice pains. My body tightening, releasing, testing. I knew enough to stay calm. I knew enough to fear stress. I knew enough to understand that being locked in a cursed tower by an ambitious alpha was not ideal prenatal care. When Orintha entered that evening, I was on the floor, breathing through a wave of pain. Her face changed. For the first time, fear crossed it. Real fear. "Are you in labor?" "No, do not lie. I am not in labor. I am furious. My body is agreeing," she called for a healer. Not Savra. Not Alira. A quiet woman named Vena, who would not meet my eyes. I caught her wrist as she checked my pulse. "Help me." Vena trembled. "I cannot." "You can." Orintha has my sister. Everything inside me stilled. Orintha's cruelty had roots everywhere. I released her wrist. What is your sister's name? Vena's eyes filled. Liz. I get out. I will remember. Hope and terror warred across her face. She nodded once, almost invisible. That night, she left something beneath my pillow. A shard of moonstone. Small. Sharp. A key component. Not enough to open the door. Enough to scratch a ward line. Enough to begin. On the 4th day, Vaelith came. I did not see her at first. I felt the tower change. A tremor through stone, a pressure in the air, then a distant crash. Orintha was with me when it happened. She looked toward the door. For the first time, she looked truly afraid. Another crash. A roar from below. Vaelith's voice, not words. War. My wolf surged so violently I nearly fell. Orintha grabbed my arm, drove the moonstone shard into her hand. She screamed. I twisted free. The door shook. Once. Twice. The ward lines burned blue, grabbed the ceramic tray, and smashed it against the wall. Scattering pieces across the floor, Orintha lunged. I threw the lantern oil at her feet, slipped. Not enough. She caught my dress and yanked me back. Pain ripped through my shoulder. A contraction seized my belly. Realer than before, cried out. The door exploded inward. Vaelith stood in the shattered frame, blood on her temple, blade in hand, silver eyes feral. Behind her, Raylis appeared, breathing hard and smiling like violence had improved her mood. Vaelith saw Orintha holding me. The room went deadly quiet. Let her go, Vaelith said. Orintha's hand tightened in my dress. You cannot kill me here. No, Vaelith said, but she can. Raylis stepped aside. Sevra entered the doorway with her cane. I had never loved an old woman more. Orintha's eyes widened. Sevra looked at me. Do you need medical help first or vengeance? A hysterical laugh escaped me. Then another pain gripped me. This one stole the answer from my mouth. Sevra's face sharpened. Medical help it is. Vaelith moved toward me. I held up one hand. Not yet. She stopped like the words were law. Feral, even bleeding. She stopped. Raylis seized Orintha and slammed her against the wall. Orintha fought. Raylis hit her once. Clean, efficient. Orintha dropped. Educational, Raylis muttered. Sevra reached me and checked my pulse. Her expression went grim. How close are the pains? I was busy being kidnapped. That is not a measurement. Vaelith's face went white. Is she in labor? Sevra glared. Do not make me manage your panic, too. I am not panicking. You are vibrating. I am controlled. You are bleeding on my patient. Face. Vaelith looked genuinely offended for half a second. Then another contraction hit, and the room narrowed to pain. Vaelith dropped to her knees several feet away. Not touching. Waiting. Nysera, she said, voice shaking. Tell me what you need. What did I need? Not romance. Not apology. Not alpha commands. I needed out of the tower. I needed the baby safe. I needed my body not to be a battlefield. I needed the woman who had failed me to be useful, without trying to own the crisis. Carry me, I said. Vaelith's breath caught. If I reach for you, do you consent? Yes, you impossible woman. I consent to being removed from the kidnapping tower. Raylis made a choked sound, possibly laughter. Fight. Vaelith crossed the room and lifted me with terrifying gentleness. The second, her arms closed around me. My body remembered everything. Heat. Safety. Trail. Longing. Rage. The baby kicked between us. Vaelith nearly stumbled. Focus, I snapped. Yes. She carried me down the tower's stairs while Sevra barked instructions. Raylis dragged Orintha behind us. The walls of the old North Tower groaned like they were ashamed to still be standing. Outside, dawn had begun. The sky was pale lavender. Snowmelt glittered on the grass. At the base of the tower, dozens of women waited. Neutral guards, Velkharis loyalists, healer witnesses. Illyra, crying openly and holding a blanket. When she saw me, she shouted, "You are never allowed to travel without me again. I was kidnapped. Excuses. My water broke. The birth of my daughter began in the ruins of the tower, where generations of Omega mothers had once been imprisoned. Should have been terrifying. It was. But it was also the most defiant thing my body had ever done. Nysera refused to move me far. Too late, he said. This child has chosen dramatic symbolism. A temporary birthing room was made in a lower chamber, cleared of dust, old chains, every memory Nysera could order thrown out. Healers worked fast. Illyra stayed at my left side. Nysera commanded the room like a war general. Raylis guarded the door. Vaelith stayed where I told her to stay. Near enough for me to grip her hand when I chose, far enough that she never presumed. Labor does not care about heartbreak. It does not pause for unresolved conversations, does not soften, because the mother is angry, and the alpha is sorry. It takes the body and turns it into thunder. Hours passed in waves. Pain, breath, pressure. I cursed Vaelith in 3 languages. She accepted every word like sacred testimony. At one point, I told her, if she ever made a political decision, again, I would personally remove her ability to sit comfortably. Nysera said my threat structure was excellent. Vaelith whispered, understood. Near the end, when the pain became bigger than language, I reached for Vaelith's hand. She gave it, no hesitation, no claim, only presence. I am here, she said. I almost told her not to be, but I was too tired to lie. Stay, I gasped. Her face broke open. I will. Then our daughter entered the world screaming, like she had inherited every woman's unfinished rage. The sound shattered me. Nysera lifted her, tiny and furious, wrapped in birth and miracle. A girl, she said. I sobbed. Not quietly, not prettily. Sobbed like the sound had been waiting since the gala. Illyra cried. Raylis turned away, suspiciously fast. Vaelith made no sound at all. Nysera placed the baby on my chest. Warm, small, alive. My daughter rooted against me, fists curled, face scrunched in outrage at existence, touched her dark hair with shaking fingers. She smelled like milk, moonlight, and something wild beneath it. Alpha blood. Omega warmth, not property, not issue, not heir before child, mine. Then Vaelith's scent reached her. The baby quieted, not fully, just enough, tiny face. Vaelith stood beside the bed, frozen, tears running silently down her face. I looked at her. The room held its breath. What is her name? Vaelith whispered. I had chosen 1 month ago. A name I had spoken only at night, when the baby kicked beneath my ribs. A name that belonged to no bloodline. No pack, no council, no contract. Illyra, I said. Vaelith closed her eyes. Illyra, she repeated. The name in her voice sounded like a vow she was afraid to touch. I shifted the baby slightly. Vaelith's eyes opened. I did not know if I was ready. I did not know if forgiveness would ever become simple. I did know my daughter had 2 mothers, and one of them needed to understand from the first moment that love was not ownership. You can touch. Her hand, I said. Vaelith looked at me, as if I had handed her life. Slowly, she extended 1 finger. Illyra's tiny fist closed around it. Vaelith broke, not dramatically, not for the room. Her knees hit the floor beside the bed, bowed her head over our daughter's hand, like a woman receiving mercy she knew she had not earned. I will not fail you like that, Vaelith whispered. My chest tightened. I said, do not make vows you think sound beautiful. Make choices. Vaelith lifted her wet eyes to mine. My first choice is this. You decide what place I have. With her. With you. With everything. I looked down at Illyra. She yawned. The audacity. After all that, she simply slept. A laugh escaped me. Small. Broken. Real. Vaelith stared at that laugh like sunrise. I looked back at her. and start by surviving the inquiry. I plan to, and by never again making my life a chessboard. Yes, by changing every law that allowed this. Her eyes sharpened. That is not a request. That is already underway. Good. I looked at Alira again. My daughter, our daughter, born in the shadow of a prison tower, crying like freedom. I do not forgive you today, I said. Vaelith bowed her head. I know, but you can stay outside the door tonight. Her breath caught. Outside, with Raylis. Raylis called from the doorway. Unnecessary punishment for me. I smiled despite exhaustion. Vaelith smiled too, through tears. A tiny thing, careful. Grateful. I will stay wherever you allow, Vaelith said. The aftermath did not become easy. Nothing real does. Orintha was arrested, under neutral authority, and transported to Arvespar. In chains she called temporary. Solvara attempted to deny knowledge of the tower. Then 3 old healers testified. 2 scribes confessed. Raylis produced a hidden ledger with such satisfaction that even Saevra looked impressed. The Velkharis Council fell in stages. Not beautifully, not completely. Old power dies like rot being dug from stone, piece by piece, stinking the whole room. Galith. Vaelith returned to Velkharis 3 weeks after Alira's birth to face inquiry, tribunal oversight, and a pact that did not know whether to fear her, blame her, or beg her to fix what she had exposed. I did not go with her. That mattered, she asked once. Only once. Would you consider returning under neutral protection? No, she nodded. Then I will come when summoned. By me, I said. By you. And if I do not summon you? Pain crossed her face. Then I will still do the work. That was the first answer that sounded like change. Not love, not apology. Work. I stayed in Verwyn crossing with Alira, Saevra Alira, and the ridiculous number of knitted blankets the town began producing. As if my daughter were personally responsible for the local economy. Alira was not an easy baby. Of course she was not. She was Vaelith's daughter and mine. She hated being swaddled. She screamed at bathwater, slept best during storms. She stared at strangers with unsettling judgment. Saevra declared her highly opinionated. Alira declared her perfect. Raylis visited with official reports and unofficial toys carved from dark wood the first time. Alira grabbed Raylis's finger and refused to let go. Raylis looked deeply betrayed by her own softness. Do not tell anyone, she said. I said, I will tell everyone. Vaelith visited after the first month. She arrived alone. No guards, no carriage, no alpha display. Tired woman in a dark coat, standing outside the clinic door with a basket of normal fruit. Mostly normal. Saevra inspected it. Pears are suspiciously expensive, Vaelith said. They are from a common orchard. Saevra bit one, then narrowed her eyes. Pear has known privilege. Vaelith looked genuinely lost. I laughed. I did not mean to. It simply happened. Vaelith looked at me. Not greedily, not hopefully. Just quietly grateful to witness it. That was new too. She did not ask to hold Alira. I noticed. Instead, she sat across the room, while I fed our daughter and answered every question. I asked about the inquiry. Which laws had been suspended, councilwomen had been removed, which Omega records had been recovered, which families were searching for stolen histories, healers needed testimony. She spoke plainly. No polished strategy, no softening the ugly parts. When Alira finished eating and blinked sleepily toward the sound of Vaelith's voice, I said, You can hold her. Vaelith's entire body stilled. Are you sure? No. But she is clean and sleepy, and if she screams, I will enjoy watching you panic. I deserve that. You do. She washed her hands twice. Alira whispered. She is about to request a surgical gown. Vaelith ignored her, but her ears flushed. Good. Then I placed Alira in her arms. Vaelith held her like she was made of moonlight and lawbreaking. Alira opened her eyes. Silver gray. Vaelith's exact silver. Not my dark blue. Something between storm and dawn. She stared at Vaelith for 5 solemn seconds, then sneezed. Vaelith looked alarmed. Alira nearly collapsed laughing. I smiled until my chest hurt. That was how we began. Not as lovers again, not as a family healed by one dramatic rescue. As 3 people in a room learning the shape of trust from the floor up. Vaelith visited every 7th day, when tribunal duties allowed. Sometimes she arrived with updates. Sometimes with supplies for the clinic. Once with a mobile made of carved moons that Alira loved so much. She screamed when it stopped moving. Vaelith spent 40 minutes manually spinning it with one finger while Raylis watched from the doorway and said, "Strong alpha leadership." Vaelith said, "Silence!" Alira screamed. Vaelith resumed spinning. I laughed until I cried. Other days were harder. Sometimes Vaelith would reach instinctively when Alira fussed, then stop and ask. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I said no. Sometimes I hated that she's asked, because it reminded me of why she had to. Sometimes I loved that she asked, because it meant she remembered. My anger did not vanish. It changed rooms. Some days it sat beside me quietly. Some days it slammed doors. Once, when Alira was 3 months old, Vaelith mentioned a council reconstruction meeting and said, "I had to compromise." The word compromise snapped something in me. I put Alira in her cradle, walked into the back garden, and told Vaelith if she ever compromised my daughter's safety for political timing, she would never see us again. Vaelith listened, then said, "The compromise was about grain tax distribution." I stared at her. She added, "But your warning is accepted." I hated her for being reasonable. Then I hated myself for almost smiling. Healing was humiliating. At 5 months, Alira laughed for the first time. Not for me. Not for Alira's silly faces. Not for Seivra's grumbling lullabies. For Vaelith. Specifically, for Vaelith dropping a spoon, catching it badly, and looking personally betrayed by gravity. Alira gave a tiny, startled laugh. The room froze. Vaelith looked at her, then at me. Her eyes filled instantly. "Oh no," I said. "Do not cry over a spoon." Vaelith whispered. She laughed. Questionable taste. She laughed at me. "Yes. You were ridiculous." Vaelith smiled, a real one. Unarmored, soft enough to hurt. Alira laughed again. I watched them and felt my heart do something dangerous. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But an opening, door, cracked, in a house I had abandoned. At 6 months, the tribunal cleared Vaelith of conspiracy in Kaelira's death, but censured her for the public rejection and failure to warn a targeted Omega. She accepted the censure. Publicly, on the tribunal floor, with me watching from Verwin, through a seeing mirror. His eyes. I refused to travel with a teething infant and a fragile temper. Vaelith stood before 7 packs and said, "I believed sacrifice made without consent could still be noble. It cannot, I believed. Protecting someone from truth was protection. It was control. I harmed Nysera Veyl. I harmed my child. Before she was born by allowing her existence to become a piece in a political game. I will spend my authority dismantling every law that taught me to call that leadership." The hall was silent. Alira cried. Seivra pretended not to. Alira chewed her own foot. I watched Vaelith through the mirror and finally let one tear fall. Just one. Then I wiped it away before I could become sentimental in front of Seivra. Too late, Seivra said. Growth. Disgusting. By Alira's first birthday, North Tower had been torn down. Not sealed. Not renamed. Not purified with ceremony and left standing like old violence deserved architecture, torn down. Stone by stone. The land was given to the healer, houses to build a sanctuary for pregnant Omegas, traveling between pack territories. Vaelith invited me to the dedication. I almost refused. Then I looked at Alira, who was trying to bite Raylus's shoulder badge, thought of every Omega who had never walked out of that tower. We went. The sanctuary stood where the tower had once cast its shadow. White walls, wide windows, gardens of moonroot and lavender. No locked upper rooms, no council seals, no wards except those controlled by the healers. At the entrance, a stone plaque listed names recovered from Kaelira's journals. Some had no surnames, some had no death dates, some were followed only by child unknown. I stood before the plaque for a long time. Vaelith stood beside me, holding Alira because I had handed her over when my knees weakened. She did not speak. Good. Some silences are respect. Finally, I touched the stone. They deserved more than names. Vaelith said, yes. What else? Records restored. Families traced where possible. Reparations from seized council assets. Legal guardianship reform across 5 packs. So far, 3 more resisting. Make it 7. I will. I looked at her then. She looked older than when I left Velkharis. Not in years. In truth. Truth ages powerful women differently, strips the shine, and leaves bone. Vaelith was still beautiful, still dangerous, still alpha. But she no longer looked untouchable. She looked reachable. That frightened me more. Alira grabbed Vaelith's braid and yanked. Vaelith did not react except to say, strong grip. I smiled. Vanity is punished early. Vaelith looked at me. There was warmth in her eyes. Careful. Always careful now. Later that day, after the dedication speeches, we walked through the sanctuary garden. Alira slept against Vaelith's shoulder. Spring air smelled like lavender and wet stone. I had not walked alone with Vaelith in a garden since the greenhouse. We both knew it. The memory moved between us. Old and tender and bruised. Vaelith stopped near a young moonflower vine. I had the greenhouse restored, she said, breath caught. Of all the things she could have said, I looked at the vine. Why, at first, because I missed you. Honest, painful. And then I realized memory should not be a shrine if the person it honors is alive and angry. Despite myself, my mouth curved. Good realization, so I turned it into an Omega legal archive. I blinked. You what? The greenhouse has light, privacy, and no council access. Now holds copies of every reformed statute, every restored birth record, and every testimony the survivor families allowed to be preserved. Stared at her. You turned our secret meeting place into a paperwork rebellion. Vaelith's mouth twitched. I thought you would appreciate the practicality. I laughed. Fully. Unexpectedly. The sound startled birds from the hedge. Alira stirred against Vaelith's shoulder. Vaelith froze, terrified of waking her. That only made me laugh harder. For a moment, there we were, fixed. Not simple, but alive in the aftermath. When my laughter faded, Vaelith looked at me with such quiet longing that my chest tightened. She did not step closer. She did not ask. She only stood there holding our sleeping daughter, beneath new moonflowers, waiting for whatever I chose to give. I hated how much that mattered. I am still angry, I said. I know. Some days I think I always will be. You may. I do not want to go back to who I was. I do not want that either. I do not want to be your secret again. Her eyes sharpened. Never. I do not know if I want to be your mate. Pain crossed her face, but she nodded. I understand. But I know, I said slowly, when Alira looks for you, I do not want to take that from her. Vaelith's eyes softened. And when I look for you, I am tired of pretending I do not. Her breath caught. I looked away first. Cowardly, human, Omega, mother, all of it. Cannot promise where this goes, I said. I am not asking for a promise. You used to. I used to ask you to carry the weight of decisions I was afraid to make. I looked back at her. And now? Now I make choices and let you decide whether any of them deserve trust. The answer settled inside me. Not as forgiveness, as possibility. Elira woke then, opened her storm-gray eyes, looked between us, and slapped Vaelith's cheek with one tiny hand. Vaelith accepted solemnly. I said, supports cautious optimism. Vaelith said, she has a firm leadership style. It took 2 years for Vaelith to kiss me again. That is the part most stories would skip. They would rush. They would take the tower rescue, the birth, the public vow, turn pain into romance before the wounds had time to scar. But real trust is slow. It is boring sometimes. Weekly visits and legal reforms. And child fevers. At 2 a.m, Vaelith sitting on the floor while Elira stacks blocks on her boots. It is me handing Vaelith a feverish toddler and saying, I need sleep, 'cause I finally trust her, not to confuse care with claim. It is arguing about discipline, because Vaelith thinks a 2-year-old can be reasoned through eye contact, and Elira thinks that is the funniest thing she has ever heard. It is Vaelith learning to braid Elira's hair badly, Elira, announcing at market that her alpha mother is scared of soup, because Vaelith burned her tongue once and reacted dramatically. Is Savra saying, good.
Fear keeps the powerful humble.
It is waking one night during a thunderstorm and finding Vaelith asleep in the clinic, chair with Elira curled against her chest, both of them breathing in the same rhythm. That was the night I admitted to myself that love had not died, changed. Grown teeth, grown boundaries, grown tired of being asked to prove itself through suffering. Kiss happened in the rebuilt greenhouse archive. Of course it did. Rain on glass again. Moonflowers open around us again. Everything else was different. Elira was asleep at Savra's house. The archive lamps glowed over shelves of testimony and law. Vaelith stood by the central table, reading a new statute that gave Omega parents full legal autonomy. Across the Northern Territories had passed that morning. 7 packs. All 7. The same number I had demanded. I watched her sign the final copy. Her hand was steady. Mine was not. When she looked up, she knew. Vaelith always knew when something in me shifted. She only no longer acted like knowing gave her permission. Nysera, she asked. I walked around the table, slowly. Her eyes stayed on mine. No alpha push. No scent command. No assumption. Just Vaelith, the woman who had ruined me, the woman who had changed because ruin was not the final word. The woman who had spent 2 years making choices without demanding. They erase one night. I stopped in front of her. You did it, I said. We did. No, do not be humble. It does not suit you. A small smile touched her mouth. I did it. For them, yes. For Elira, yes. For me? Her eyes softened. Yes, and for you. She was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Yes. I wanted to become someone I could stand being. That answer undid me more than any perfect apology could have. I touched her cheek. She went still, frozen with fear, still with reverence. I want to kiss you, I said. Her breath caught. Are you sure? No? She blinked. I smiled. I am sure I want to. I am not sure what it means. We can let it mean only what it is. Since when are you wise? Saevra insults me weakly. It has improved my character. I laughed softly. Then I kissed her. It was not like the old kisses. Those had been desperate, hidden, edged with danger. This was slow, careful, familiar and new. Vaelith did not pull me close until I stepped closer first. Her hands trembled at my waist. When I felt that trembling, something inside me finally stopped bracing for impact. Kissed. Like someone asking a question, with every breath. I answered only what I wanted. When we pulled apart, rain moved over the glass roof like applause from a kinder world. Vaelith rested her forehead against mine. Was that okay? I smiled. You always ask after. I can ask before and after. Good. Her eyes closed. I touched the scar near her cheekbone from the tower rescue. Do not think this means everything is healed. I don't. Do not become smug. I would never. Liar. Her mouth curved. A recovering one. I kissed her, again because I wanted to, because no one watched, because nothing was hidden, because I could stop whenever I chose, because choice, I had learned, was the only ground love could stand on without turning into a cage. Years later, people told our story wrong. They always did, said. Alpha Vaelith Orqane rejected her pregnant Omega, then crawled back when the heir was revealed. Nysera Veyl humbled the cold Alpha. They said, the child softened the monster. They said, love conquered politics. They were wrong. Love did not conquer politics. Truth did. Consent did. Law did. Anger did. Healers with sharp tongues did. A war captain with excellent timing did. Baby girl who screamed in the ruins of a prison tower did. And love, if it survived at all, survived because it learned to stop asking wounds to disappear before trust could return. Alira grew wild and bright. At 3, she bit a councilwoman who tried to pinch her cheek. Vaelith apologized formally, while Rhaelys congratulated her privately. At 5, she demanded to know why the moon had phases and whether it was bad at commitment. At 7, she announced she would become a healer warrior judge flower keeper. Sayevra said finally, a practical career path. At 10, she stood in the sanctuary garden before the plaque of lost Omega names and asked why some had no surnames. I told her the truth. Not all at once. Enough. She listened with Vaelith's stillness and my fury. Then she placed a white flower beneath the plaque and said, "Then we remember them extra." Vaelith cried after. I pretended not to see, mostly. By then, Vaelith and I had built something no one knew how to name. Mate felt too simple. Wife felt too small. Chosen felt accurate, but not finished. We lived. Between Verwyn and Velkharis, between clinic and council, between family dinners and territory reform. Some nights, Dill woke from dreams of the gala. Vaelith learned not to touch me awake too quickly. She would sit up beside me and say, "You are here." I would breathe. She would say, "You can be angry." I would breathe again. Sometimes I reached for her. Sometimes I did not. Both were allowed. Some nights. Vaelith woke from dreams of the tower. On those nights, she would walk the house checking every door, every window, every ward around Alira's room. I would find her in the hallway, barefoot and haunted. "You are here," I would say. She would close her eyes. "I am. You are not them." "I know. Do you? Sometimes." On those nights, I took her hand. Not because she deserved comfort perfectly, because I chose it freely. That distinction saved us. The final time we stood in the Silver Oath Hall, Alira was 12. The chandeliers were the same. The banners were not. The old wolf crest had been changed after a long and deeply annoying legal debate. The silver wolf stood beside a moonflower vine. Vaelith hated the symbolism at first. Alira loved it. Alira won, obviously. The hall was full again. Councilwomen, healers, warriors, omegas, betas, alphas, all seated without the old separation lines. Not perfect, but different. Different matters. Vaelith stood on the dais where she had once rejected me. I stood beside her, not behind, not hidden. Alira stood between us, bored by ceremony and secretly feeding dried apple slices to a service wolf pup under her cloak. I pretended not to notice. Vaelith absolutely noticed. She did nothing. Growth. The annual oath began. Vaelith spoke the old words, then the new ones added after the reforms. No pack member shall be claimed without consent. No child shall be named property of bloodline or council. No, Omega body shall be confined under protection law. No alpha duty shall excuse private harm. No love shall be used as leverage. Her voice did not shake. Mine almost did. Then Vaelith turned to the hall. 12 years ago, she said, I stood here and lied. The room went utterly still. Alira stopped feeding the pup. I looked at Vaelith. She had not told me. She planned to say this. Her eyes found mine, asking, still asking. I gave the smallest nod. She continued. I denied the Omega I loved because I feared the council more than I trusted her. Called a bond a misunderstanding. I called control protection. I called cowardice strategy. No one moved. Not even Alira. Vaelith's voice carried to the rafters. The pack applauded. I let it. That applause became the sound of everything Velkharis had taught wrong. My chest tightened. Vaelith looked at the gathered faces. Every year we renew loyalty to the pack. This year, I ask you to understand loyalty differently. Loyalty is not obedience to an alpha's fear. Loyalty is not silence when power wounds someone smaller. Loyalty is not applause because the person on the dais speaks calmly. Her hand reached for mine. Slowly, publicly, I took it, not as the girl in the blue dress, not as the pregnant Omega running through the forest, as Nysera Veyl, healer, mother, survivor, woman who chose visibility and survived that too. Vaelith looked at me, then at the hall. Loyalty is what begins after truth. For a second, there was silence. Then Nysera struck her cane against the floor, once. The same way she had in the tribunal hall, Rella, followed with the hilt of her blade. Alira clapped openly, because subtlety had never entered her body. Then the hall joined, not the old applause, not blind obedience. This was uneven, human, chosen. I looked at Vaelith. Her eyes were wet, I whispered. You are staring, smiled. Yes, at least deny it. No, Alira groaned. You two are embarrassing in public again. Raylis said from below, strong family tradition. Everyone laughed. Even Vaelith. Especially Vaelith, and I thought of the night this hall had devoured me. The dress, chain, the test hidden in my pouch. The words that nearly made me disappear. I thought of the forest, the clinic, the tower, the birth, years of slow repair, the first kiss after damage. The laws changed, the names remembered. The daughter between us, bright as a storm. Once, I believed being chosen meant someone powerful, finally speaking my name in public. I was wrong. Being chosen began when I stopped abandoning myself in rooms built to shame me. Vaelith did not save me. I did not save her. Suit. Alira did not heal us by existing. We saved ourselves in pieces, then learned how to stand close, without turning love into a debt. The first time Alpha Vaelith Orqane rejected me, the entire Velkharis Pack applauded. Years later, in that same hall, I held my hand beneath the moon banners and let every woman there witness the truth she should have spoken. From the beginning, that I was not a misunderstanding. That our daughter was not a clause. That love without choice is only another cage. And that sometimes the Omega who leaves, with nothing but a borrowed cloak and a secret life inside her, does not return to be claimed. She returns to change the law. She returns to name the wound. She returns when she is ready. And this time, when the pack looked at me, I did not lower my eyes. I looked back, beside me. Vaelith's hand tightened gently around mine, not holding me in place, only asking to stay. And because the choice was finally mine, it seems I stayed.